The radiant nature of mind. A Tibetan Buddhist insight. What is your mind, truly? Have you ever felt that beneath the chaos of thoughts and the turbulence of emotions, there remains something deeper, an essence that is pure, radiant, and untouched? This is not just an abstract philosophical concept, it is an experience that anyone can realize. Even in moments of confusion and uncertainty, could there be a silent brilliance shining deep within your consciousness? Sometimes, you might sense it in moments of stillness, when gazing at a vast, open sky, when feeling the depth of your breath, or when pausing amid the busyness of life and recognizing that, deep within, there is a peace that nothing can disturb. The Dalai Lama once said that even when the mind is clouded by ignorance and afflictions, its true nature remains unstained. This means that, just as the sky is unaffected by passing clouds, your true nature can never be lost. No matter how many layers of thoughts, worries, or illusions obscure it. The question then arises, how can we recognize this essence amid the chaos of life? Is there a way to dissolve the fog that veils the mind and return to the original clarity that has always been within us? This journey is not about seeking something new outside of yourself, but about awakening to what has always been present within. What does this truly mean? How can we transcend the mist of the mind and live in its inherent clarity? This is not merely a question for contemplation, it is a path to be walked. Every moment of life offers an opportunity to recognize the mind's pure essence, not by suppressing emotions or controlling thoughts, but by understanding their transient nature. Through this understanding, we learn to let go of attachments and automatic reactions. This is the art of mindful living, where wisdom is not confined to theory but is deeply integrated into each passing moment. Let us embark on this journey of discovering truth, not a journey outward, but a return inward. This is the journey of awakening, of lifting the veil of mental obscurations and realizing that your true essence has never been lost. It only requires you to see it clearly. If you have listened this far, it is not by chance. This is a sign that you are already on this path, a path leading toward deeper self-awareness. Continue to follow along, for what you discover today may be the key that unlocks a new level of understanding. Do not miss the opportunity to gain a clearer insight into the true nature of the mind and to awaken the wisdom within. Let us walk this path together, a journey regarded as the heart of Tibetan Buddhism, the foundation of the path to enlightenment. Chapter 1. When the fog obscures the light. The human mind is like a mirror. When it is clean and clear, it reflects everything as it truly is. But when it becomes covered with the dust of chaotic thoughts, worries, and negative emotions, we can no longer perceive reality as it is. We no longer see ourselves clearly. Imagine an early morning when thick fog blankets everything. You stand by a lake, trying to look down and see its depths, but all you see is a white, opaque surface. You cannot distinguish between the water and the reflection of the sky. If you don't realize that the fog is only temporary, you might believe that the lake has changed forever, that its clarity has been lost. But as the sun rises higher, its rays gradually penetrate the mist, and slowly, the lake becomes clear again, reflecting everything around it. Similarly, the true nature of the mind has never been lost. No matter how much confusion, anxiety, or anger you may feel, the mind can be stirred by afflictions. But these are merely temporary disturbances. Just like when you stir a glass of clear water with mud. It turns murky, but if you leave it undisturbed, the mud settles, and the water regains its clarity. So how can the light of wisdom pierce through the fog of ignorance? The answer does not lie in trying to force it away, but in understanding that it is not permanent. Peace is not something you need to search for. It is already within you, only waiting for you to let it shine naturally. The key to realizing this is letting go of what is unnecessary and not clinging to external influences. When you can do this, the mind gradually becomes still, just like a lake when the mud settles, and as the fog dissipates, you will see that the true essence of your mind has never changed. The radiant nature of the mind is always present, just like the sun always shines, even when obscured by clouds. But when we are caught up in thoughts, emotions, and worries, our minds become disturbed. In those moments, we may mistakenly believe that our true nature is unstable and uncertain. Yet, in reality, these are merely temporary distortions. Imagine a crystal clear lake. When the sky is bright and cloudless, the lake reflects everything perfectly, the drifting clouds, the golden rays of sunlight. But when strong winds rise and stir the mud from the depths, the water becomes cloudy, and you can no longer see beneath the surface. We are the same. When the mud of thoughts and emotions is stirred, we lose sight of our true essence. But the water never truly loses its clarity, it is only temporarily obscured. The key to understanding this lies in letting go of what is unnecessary, not clinging to external disturbances. When you achieve this, your mind will gradually settle, just like a lake when the mud sinks to the bottom, leaving only clarity behind. Chapter 2. Ignorance, the dust that covers the mind. Why do we fail to recognize the radiant nature of our own mind? Because we have become too accustomed to seeing everything through the foggy lens of ignorance. Ignorance is not merely a lack of knowledge, it is a state of being bound by illusions and distorted perceptions of reality. It is like a thick layer of dust accumulating on a mirror, preventing us from seeing our true reflection. We often mistake ourselves for our fleeting emotions. When we are angry, we believe that anger defines us. When we are sorrowful, we think that life is nothing but suffering. But the truth is, these emotions are merely waves on the vast ocean of consciousness. They rise and fall, but the ocean itself remains unchanged. Similarly, no matter how disturbed our mind becomes due to life's uncertainties, its pure and original nature remains untouched. There is a Zen story about a monk who once approached his master and asked, "Master, how can I see the true nature of my mind?" The master remained silent, then brought out a bowl of muddy water and said, "Let it sit." After some time, the sediment settled, and the water became clear. The master then spoke, "The nature of water is always clear. Only when you stop stirring it will you see its true clarity." Your mind is the same. We do not need to create a pure mind because it has always been there. The only thing we need to do is allow the delusions to settle, letting the mind return to its natural state. When you begin to observe your thoughts without getting entangled in them, when you stop reacting automatically to your emotions, you will realize that ignorance is merely a temporary layer of dust. Once it fades away, the light of the mind naturally shines through, just like the sky clearing after a storm. Why do we not see our mind's inherent radiance? Because we have lived in ignorance for too long. Ignorance is not just a lack of knowledge, it is a veil of illusion that distorts our perception, making us believe in a false reality. We believe we are our emotions. When we are angry, we think we are anger itself. When we suffer, we assume that suffering defines us. But in truth, these states are like waves on the surface of the ocean. You may feel pain, but you are not the pain. You may experience anxiety, but you are not anxiety. A Zen master once said, "If you look at the sky through a dirty window, you might think the sky itself is stained. But in reality, the dirt is on the window, not in the sky." We do not see the world through pure eyes but through a filter of ingrained beliefs, past wounds, prejudices, and fears. We do not perceive reality as it truly is, rather, we interpret it based on how our conditioned mind has been trained to see. Chapter 3. The Light of Wisdom, Transcending Darkness. Wisdom is like a lamp. When it is lit, darkness has nowhere to hide. But if you have never recognized this light, you may believe that darkness is the only reality. On the journey to rediscover the radiant essence of the mind, the key is not to fight against darkness but to realize that the light has always been present. All you need to do is open your eyes to see it. Imagine a room that has been locked away for years. Inside, dust covers every corner, and darkness fills the space. Then, someone steps in, carrying a small candle. With just a single flicker of light, the darkness immediately recedes. But here's the paradox. The room was never truly consumed by darkness, it simply lacked illumination. Our minds are the same. When ignorance shrouds our awareness, we fail to see reality, failing to recognize our true nature. But when wisdom emerges, even the smallest glimmer of insight can transform our entire perception. So, what exactly is wisdom? It is not merely theoretical understanding, nor is it knowledge accumulated from books. True wisdom is the ability to perceive reality clearly, without distortion from fleeting thoughts and emotions. When wisdom arises, You no longer become entangled in negative thinking, nor do you mistake your passing emotions for your identity. You begin to see things as they truly are, rather than through the distorted lens of illusion. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How many times have you worried about things that never actually happened? How many times have you suffered over past events that you cannot change? How often have you allowed yourself to be carried away by endless cycles of thought? Forgetting that in this very moment, you are alive, you are breathing, and you have the capacity to find peace? Wisdom is the understanding that everything is impermanent, that all emotions are nothing more than passing ripples on the vast ocean of consciousness. When you grasp this truth, you will no longer be trapped by fear or unrealistic expectations. You will live with greater freedom, lightness, and compassion, because you will realize that everyone around you is also struggling beneath the veil of ignorance, seeking light in the darkness of their own minds. So how can you awaken the light of wisdom within yourself? The answer does not lie in gathering more knowledge but in shedding the layers of illusion that obscure the mind. When you practice stillness, when you take the time to observe your thoughts without judgment, when you truly live in the present moment rather than being pulled by memories or fantasies, the light of wisdom will naturally arise, and in that moment, you will see clearly that you were never truly consumed by darkness. When you begin to see the true nature of the mind, you will realize one profound truth: wisdom and compassion are two sides of the same essence. Just like a flame that both shines and radiates warmth, when wisdom is awakened, compassion naturally blossoms. Why is that? Because when you understand that all negative emotions are temporary, you also see that others are going through the same struggles. They, too, are shrouded in ignorance, lost in suffering, unaware of their true nature. And when you recognize this, your heart cannot help but open toward them. You cannot help but wish to help them free themselves from their illusions. Enlightenment is not a mystical event that happens after years of practice. It is simply the realization of what has always been there. It is like a sleepwalker suddenly waking up and realizing that they have been home all along. Chapter 4. Practice. The path back to oneself. Knowing that the true nature of the mind is always radiant is important. But mere intellectual understanding is not enough to free us from suffering and delusions. To truly experience inner stillness and recognize the mind's pure essence, we must engage in a dedicated and consistent practice. The path back to oneself is not a journey outward but an inward return, to where the light of wisdom has always been present. 1. Mindfulness. Learning to observe without judgment. Mindfulness is not just a practice, it is a way of living. When we cultivate mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without letting them control us. An emotion such as anger no longer becomes my anger, and a worry no longer becomes my anxiety, but instead, they are merely fleeting phenomena drifting across the vast sky of consciousness. Try, just once, to observe your thoughts without reacting. When a thought arises, rather than chasing after it or trying to push it away, simply watch it, like a cloud passing through the sky. As you develop this habit, you will realize that your mind is far greater than any single thought. And no thought has the power to bind you unless you allow it. 2. Meditation. Listening to the silence. Meditation is not about sitting in silence to eliminate thoughts, but rather to see their true nature. As you sit quietly and observe your breath, your mind may be swept away by wandering thoughts. Instead of resisting them, gently return to your breath. This process helps you realize that your consciousness is not defined by thoughts that arise and disappear. It is the vast space that holds them all. A Zen master once said, "When a cup of water is disturbed, do not force it to be still. Simply allow it to settle on its own." Meditation is the act of allowing the mind to settle, not through force, but through acceptance and letting go. 3. Applying clarity in daily life. You do not need to be in a monastery to practice inner stillness. It can be cultivated in the smallest moments of daily life. When washing dishes, truly feel the water flowing over your hands. When walking, be fully aware of each step connecting to the ground. When talking to someone, listen deeply without preparing your response in advance. The secret to practice does not lie in grand gestures, but in bringing awareness to the most ordinary moments. When you truly immerse yourself in each second, you will realize there is nothing to seek, because everything you need is already here, in this very moment. 4. Letting go. Learning to flow with life. Much of our suffering arises from attachment. We cling to past experiences, to expectations about the future, to identities we impose upon ourselves. Yet, in reality, all of these are nothing more than fleeting illusions. Letting go does not mean abandoning everything. It means realizing that you do not need to control everything. Observe life as a river flowing past, rather than trying to grasp each drop of water. When you learn to release control and allow things to be as they are, you will experience true freedom. Conclusion. Returning to your true essence. The path back to oneself is not a journey with a final destination. It is an awakening in each moment. When you learn to observe without judgment, when you listen to the silence, when you live fully in every second and master the art of letting go, you will realize that the radiant nature of your mind has never been lost. It has always been there, waiting for you to return. So, how can we reconnect with this innate luminosity of the mind? The Dalai Lama offers 3 essential steps. 1. Mindfulness. Recognizing thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them. Observe your mind the way you observe clouds drifting across the sky. 2. Meditation. Take time to sit still, turn inward, and listen to the silence within. At first, thoughts may rush in like a storm, but if you remain patient, clarity will gradually emerge. 3. Application in daily life. Carry this clarity into every moment. When sadness arises, remember that you are not your sadness. When anger flares, remember that you are not your anger. Live with the awareness of an observer rather than being swept away by fleeting emotions. Your true essence has never left you. It is only waiting for you to see it clearly once again. Final words. The light has always been there. When you realize that the true nature of your mind is pure and luminous, you will no longer be controlled by emotions and thoughts as you once were. You will come to understand that happiness and suffering are not absolute states, but merely fleeting movements along the river of consciousness. Life is not a cycle of endless desires and disappointments. It is an ongoing journey of awareness and enlightenment. Every experience presents an opportunity to return to yourself, to look deeply within, and to recognize that no external turbulence can ever disturb the innate clarity of your mind. You do not need to search far and wide for peace, because it has never left you. It has always been within you, right here, right now. Awakening is not something that exists in a distant future. It is found in this very moment. When you pause, listen, and realize that the light has never been extinguished, take a moment to be still, to feel your breath, to look deeply into your inner self. You will recognize that your mind has never been completely obscured. Just return, and the light will naturally shine forth. Once you understand that your mind's true nature is luminous and pure, you will no longer be controlled by fleeting emotions and thoughts. You will see that life is not just a repetitive cycle of joy and sorrow, but a continuous flow of awareness and discovery. And the most beautiful realization is this: you do not need to seek it elsewhere. It has always been within you. Right now, in this very moment, take a moment to pause, and you may just feel it now. Thank you for joining this journey. If you found this content valuable and wish to explore deeper truths about consciousness and enlightenment, please like, share, and subscribe to the path to self-realization. Doing so will not only keep you updated with new content but also help spread wisdom to more people. See you in the next video.